Hello to all my glam dolls and glam goddesses. This video is going to be on a full sew-in with a silk base closure. It won't be very detailed, it'll just be the basics. If you would like more detailed information on this method, please comment below and don't forget to rate and subscribe. Okay, you guys, so here I'm just showing you where her hair is very damaged. She tried to do her own hair color at home and she actually fried her hair. So this is the part of the service where I had to end up cutting off maybe about an inch to an inch and a half of her own hair just to try to preserve the integrity of the rest of her hair. Okay, so because my client is getting a full sew-in, I'm going to start her braids right along the edge of her hairline. She is not leaving any hair out. So this is just one of the many braid patterns that I use as a foundation for my sew-ins. It just depends on the style that you're trying to achieve, and that's what determines the style of the braid pattern. At this point, you just want to wrap the thread around the needle a few times and then pull it to make a secure knot. And then you just cut it, and that will keep the braid tagged down. So now I'll be applying a net. What a net does is it helps your sewing last longer. It gives you more space to sew on if you didn't have like enough braids or if your hair was thin. And it helps keep a stronger foundation for a longer period of time. So after you've completely sewn the net down all the way around, you just want to take a pair of scissors and cut all the extra net off along the perimeter. So now that we have the net sewn on, we're going to take some of my Supernatural Growth Potion, which is a scalp oil. It helps with growth and it helps with the dryness and itching that you may receive or that may occur when you have a sew-in. We're going to apply that to the scalp area in between all parts just to minimize that uncomfortability. So now it's time to apply the closure. And for this particular tutorial, we will be using a silk base closure. And what that is a lace closure with a piece of silk fabric in between the lace and the knots to make it appear like a real scalp. If I explained that correctly. But yes, this is a silk base closure that we'll be using for this tutorial. What I like to do is sew on my closure one side, then the other side, and then the back. And what that does is ensures even tension all the way around the base of the closure, and it also ensures that you land your closure right on that part that you've created for yourself. Now that our closure is sewn all the way down, all the way around, what we're going to do is take our tracks and we're going to go in a back and forth motion across the back until we reach the top of the ear. What I like to do to make sure that my weft is secure is take the first stitch and make a loop stitch around the weft before I actually apply it to my foundation. I then proceed to sew the bundles in using the lock stitch method. So once you've reached the other side, I like to use the fold over method. So I'll take the weft or the track or whatever you like to call it, and I'll fold it back the opposite way that I just came from. And I'll make sure I securely tack down the end so that way there's no lump, no hump, no bump. You have no bulkiness. Well, at least I don't when I'm done sewing down my wefts after the fold over method. Once you pass the ear, you're going to continue to use the fold over method and continue sewing. Now right here is where I show you a little trick that I do. I never cut the needle out of the head completely until I've tied both needles in a knot. So that way, what it does is it creates a continuous flow of thread. There's never separate pieces. So if you think about it, you're tying them together, but it's all one piece of thread at the end of your install. So once I've tied the needles in a knot, I'll then cut the shorter thread and I'll tie that in a knot twice just to secure that that knot is not going anywhere. I'll cut the little pieces of thread and then I'll continue with the needle with the longer thread. Once I complete my install, I then take my blow dryer and I blow dry some of the wave out before cutting and styling. So once you've gotten most of the wave out, you can then proceed to cut and style. I like to use a razor. It's one of my favorite tools of choice. At this point, I've finished my cut and I'm ready to style. So what I'll do, I'll section for control and I'll go ahead and proceed to curl the hair. With this hair being so long, I like to use a bigger iron so that way it doesn't take as long and it's not as difficult to curl. So for this particular tutorial, I'll be using a 1.5 inch iron. If you're anything like me, when you're finished styling, usually you have to go back and do some finishing touches with your razor or your scissors. A few hairs may be out of place and you just may be able to make it look just that much better by cutting that little piece of hair. So that's what I like to go back and do. So now all that's left to do is add a little shine and voila, flawless. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And please go over and check me out on Instagram, glamher_hairstudio.